Hello, this is a new overview video for the YouTube data tools. I already made a video 8 years ago when the initial release of the software happened, and since then enough has changed to warrant this new edition. In this video, I'm going to present to you the YouTube data tools, which is a series of modules for the extraction of data from the YouTube platform in order to research what's happening there. For example, how is a particular topic being represented on YouTube? How are users reacting to certain videos, and so forth. So we all know that YouTube is a huge platform with many videos and a lot of users. So there are many research questions that one might want to ask, and the YouTube data tools help you to answer these research questions based on data extraction. Before jumping into the tools themselves, just a quick primer on YouTube itself. So in order to research a platform, it always makes sense to be very familiar with it. And when it comes to YouTube, there are a number of features, but maybe the two most important pivotal elements or natively digital objects are the channel and the video. Those are really the two key elements. So channels have videos, and every video is attached to a channel. And then there's a number of other things. For example, there are comments that are connected to videos, there are playlists, and so forth. But the most important entry points for us are going to be channels and videos. And in order for us to work with channels and videos with the YouTube data tools, we very often have to work with channel IDs and video IDs. So I'm just putting an example here on screen. The first one here is a series of letters and signs, numbers. That's a channel ID. That's a unique identifier for this channel, not just bikes, that I'm going to use as an example throughout this video. So in order to, for example, get certain information about this channel, we will have to find its channel ID. Then the second type of ID that is very important is the video ID. Again, every video has a unique identifier, and if we want to analyze videos, we will have to deal in one way or another with these video IDs. So how do we get to these channel and video IDs? So the channel ID is relatively straightforward. What we need is the URL. So I'm going to copy that. And then we can go into the YouTube data tools and jump directly into this first module here, the channel info module. And here I can simply paste the URL, declare that I'm not a robot, and I've already used the tools quite a bit today. So I'm going to have to click through YouTube's captcha verification tool quite a bit. But okay, so I verified that I'm not a robot. I've put the URL of the channel here. Important, sometimes that URL may have another slash and then some information behind that, and I have to cut that away. So here I only have youtube.com/@notjustbikes. Okay, click that. And then the channel info module, it gives me a series of basic infos about one channel, basically. So for example here, channel title, Not Just Bikes, channel description, all very interesting. And there's more stuff. For example, this is associated with a country, the Netherlands in this case, has a number of views, video count, and so forth. Topic categories, so they can also be interesting. But most importantly for us at this point is here the channel ID. So when doing research, I would just copy that, here in my text editor, and indeed I've already done that. So this is how we get to channel IDs. Video IDs are actually even simpler to find. So if I go back here to YouTube and then, for example, start this video, I can see that in the URL up here, I already have a video ID and can copy that directly from the URL. I'm gonna put that here. I already prepared another one, but now I have a second video ID. Okay, so that out of the way, I want to go directly into the YouTube data tools now. You've already seen the channel info module, which is really very, very basic. And this has also no output file that is being generated. A little bit more sophisticated is the channel list module. So this module is there to find channels that either respond to a particular query or that we found elsewhere. So let's say, you know, we have generated a list of videos through some other module, and we want to get information on all of the channels that we found in connection with these videos. We could, for example, here at the bottom, paste a number of video IDs. So, you know, something like this. Sorry, not video IDs, channel IDs. First channel ID, second channel ID, and so forth, right? And then we would get a list of channels and some basic information attached to them. We can also use YouTube's search function, and that's going to be very similar to the search function that we're going to find here in the interface itself. So if I search for something on YouTube and then I go on filter and I click on type channel, indeed, not just bikes, well, not just bikes the channel, not just bikes another one, but then also other channels that, well, you know, are going to deal with bikes. So this is one way of finding channels that may be interesting for our research. So if I were, you know, to research, for example, the war in Ukraine, I could, you know, type Ukraine here, and then simply start searching. Iterations is a parameter that's going to appear in several of the modules, and it simply means how many pages of results the tool should get. In this case, you can get a maximum of 10 pages, and that's then going to be 10 times 50. So each page has 50 results. So it's going to be 500 results. We can also limit our search to channels that were created in a specific time frame. So if we want to only look for recent channels, for example, or only look for older channels, we can do that. Important, we can also select a ranking method. The default in YouTube's interface is the so-called relevance ranking. This is a proprietary algorithm that YouTube uses to match the query with a set of channels. What's interesting is that very often, not just in this module, but also in other modules, when we rank by relevance, we get more channels or videos, more content, than if we were, for example, to rank by date. That's because the relevance algorithm uses a technique called query expansion to take into account channels that, well, it thinks are relevant for the query, but maybe don't have the exact word in it, right? Whereas the date ranking stays closer to the particular term we use here, right? So this is something to take into account. It's still interesting to use the relevance search because it kind of replicates the user experience, right? So what are users seeing when they put a particular query in? That can really be an interesting research question from maybe more of a platform studies research perspective, where we're interested in looking at how YouTube ranks information and not just, what kind of channels are available. So those are some of the parameters that we can take into account, but we don't have to, right? I can simply use the basic defaults, and again I will have to, well, that's appropriate. Find a bicycle here. Yeah, that wasn't so easy. Motorcycle, and there we are. And then I can run this, and it's gonna find 50 channels because I selected only one iteration. And if I open this file, I can see, okay, I opened this here in a tool called Wizard, but obviously you can open this file in stuff like Excel or Google Sheets, or basically any program that works with comma separated files where each row is a certain unit. So you can also use qualitative analysis software like NVivo. Many tools can open these kind of files, but indeed it's a kind of a spreadsheet. And in this case, the channel info module generates a list of channels. So each row here is a channel, and then there's a certain number of columns that give us more information about that channel. So here on the left, for example, we have all the channel IDs. We have the channel title, we have a channel description, when the channel was created, whether it has a default language, whether it's attached to some kind of country, and then interesting view count, subscriber count, video count. So those are really kind of the main metrics, thumbnail, keywords, and also topic details. These topic associations are generated by YouTube, so they're not selected by the channel creator. So that's kind of interesting here. When it comes to these files, all of the modules that generate them can generate either a comma separated file where each one of the data fields is separated by, well, a comma, or tab separated files where these separations are made with a tab. Some programs may have difficulty with one or another. What I like about tab is that on Mac at least, if you open it in Excel, it directly recognizes the columns. But yeah, CSV is more common. Okay, so that was the channel list module. And that indeed is there to get information for channels, either by searching, or if you already have a list of channels, well then through a set of manually collected or collected channel IDs. I'm going to jump over to the video list module, which is very similar. The video list module basically works just like the channel list module, but it gives you a list of videos. So here we have a bit more starting points because there may be more ways for finding videos. And the first one is here, the channel ID. So if I want to get all of the videos that a certain channel has published, I'm just gonna go, to my Not Just Bikes here, paste that in here, confirm that I'm not a robot, crosswalks, and motorcycles. I'm gonna run that. And then indeed, for our channel Not Just Bikes, it found 89 videos, and that's why we get a file with 89 rows. I'm just gonna quickly open that again. And indeed, it looks very similar to what we had before, but instead of every line being a channel, now every line is a video. And there's a bit more information for videos. There's stuff like the duration, definitions, whether there are captions, language, obviously the title, the video description, that can be very interesting, tags, and then of course metrics like view count, like count, comment count, favorite count that no longer exists, unfortunately also not the dislike count, and And these are all the metrics that we can use, for example, okay, we want to find the most viewed videos on this channel, and here we have it. Can also be interesting to look, for example, at the relationship between some of these metrics. So here we see, for example, that the video with the highest view count is not the one that has the highest comment count. So it could be interesting to look at different metrics to maybe find videos, to do qualitative analysis. Very often the relationship between view count and comment count can be an indicator of controversiality, for example. A lot of comments can be a sign that some kind of debate is happening in the comment section. Okay, so we have the same kind of output file, and if we jump back into the YouTube data tools, still here in the video list module, we can see, okay, the channel ID, that was one way to get to a list of videos. Playlist ID, similar thing. Certain channels have playlists, and you can find them very easily by going into the YouTube interface. The playlist ID is in the URL. Well, you can see an example here. And you could also maybe, make your own playlist, researching videos, collect all of the videos in a playlist, get the playlist ID, and then, recuperate it that way. So I think that's really straightforward. The search query, again, works very similarly to the channel list module. So, we search for something, we have a number of iterations. We can, again, limit the age of the videos. Maybe we want to search only for very recent videos, or we want to search for only very old videos. So that's interesting. And then we also have this rank by drop-down box with some of the same options that we already saw in the channel list module. One option that's specific here, and that's, I think, very interesting, is that, if we search for something like Ukraine, and then we say, okay, we do 10 iterations, and, we can, that's the max here. Again, every page or every iteration gets 50 items, so we can only find up to 500 videos. But of course, there are many more videos on the Ukraine war, or on Ukraine in general, on YouTube. So we can use this checkbox here, and then we have to define a date span to tell the YouTube data tools to make a up to 500 video search for every day in that time frame. So for most topics, this will allow us to get a much larger number than these 500 videos. It's also going to take a lot longer, so be careful if you use this option. But in the end, what we end with, again, with the search query is exactly the same as before, a list of videos that respond to our search query in one way or another. We can also use a manual selection of videos, video IDs. So for example, what we've seen is that on many other platforms, on Twitter or on Reddit, a lot of YouTube videos are being shared. And there are a number of easy ways to get the video URLs from data sets on other platforms. And from video URLs, we can go to video IDs and then maybe paste those video IDs here and get all the meta information about these videos. There's one last option here. That's a new one that should help you a little bit with textual analysis of these videos, or let's say maybe semantic analysis. Every video can have a number of tags attached to them. So if I go back here to my video list file, here are the tags. Netherlands, comma, urban planning, comma, continuous sidewalks, comma, safer streets, comma, safer sidewalks. Well, this is a channel about urban development, so the tags are are clearly on topic. But what this allows you to do is basically to create a network from the full list here of tags where nodes are tags, and if two tags appear in the same video, they are connected. So I'm not going to go into detail how this works. I'm going to show you some other networks. It's a little bit more complicated, but this is the general idea. And you know what you can, for example, see from that then is which are the most often used tags, how are they connected to other tags, are there maybe semantic spheres, you know, denser connected zones that give you a structural view of topicality. Yeah, so that's a feature that you can use. All right, so that's the video list network. Very similar to the channel list network. Again, you know, CSV tab output. Then we have two network modules. And here I also want to show you a little bit how one of those or some of those networks work like. So a network is a bit of a different thing than a list, right? A network doesn't just have elements or nodes, but it also has connections between them. What connects two things can be something that is rather abstract. So for example, in a code tag network, well, the fact that two tags appear in the tag list for the same video, that's a rather abstract connection. When it comes to the channel network, we have connections that are a little bit more tangible. And indeed, if we go back to our Not Just Bikes channel, we can see that channels, they can feature other channels. So in this case here, I can go to the channel tab and I can see, okay, channels. Here are some other channels you might enjoy, my live streams, my podcast, and so forth. So YouTube channels have the feature, the possibility to connect to other channels. Very often, these are channels, for example, from the same media group or from the same creator, but could also be like friends channels or channels that have treat a similar topic. You can, for example, see that in civil society topic areas, very often people are really trying to network quite heavily and they feature other channels. In many cases, that's not the case. So many channels do not feature other channels. So it's not really an ideal way of connecting channels, but it's a good way to maybe get some overview, maybe to find new channels for your analysis and so forth. So the YouTube Data Tools allows you to basically say, okay, I'm going to start with one or several channels, and I'm going to look through these featured channels to create a network. That's the one way to create a network, but you can also go through subscriptions in addition to the featured channels. Many channels either do not subscribe to other channels or do not make their subscriptions visible. So in this case, simply there is not going to be any kind of connection. But interestingly, for quite a number of channels, that is the case. So this can be an interesting starting point. Again, we could go through a search query here. Look, for example, for something like Ukraine, then basically get a list of channels ordered very similarly like the channel list network, but also with the additional feature that we can see, how are these channels connected between each other? But what's maybe a more common scenario is actually to start with seeds. And I'm using the term seeds here because, this is a crawl And in that kind of language, the starting point for that crawl is a seed. So I could go back here to my text edit, take the channel ID, put that here, and then maybe, you know, a second channel ID, a third channel ID, and so forth. But we only need one for the moment. And that would basically mean, okay, I'm starting with this channel. I'm looking which channels are featured by this channel. And then if I want to, I can go one further step into the network. So I could say, okay, I start with Not Just Bikes. Then I go to Strong Towns. And then I see which channel is featured by Strong Towns library, right? So, and that's maybe not connected to our starting point channel. So those are the options. If you download the YouTube data tools and you run them on your own server, you can change that value, and then you can do a crawl, you know, as far as you want. But our infrastructure is not equipped to handle that. Again, we would have to say, yeah, I'm not a robot. Then, you know, click Submit Query, and then we would get a different kind of output file. So this is no longer a CSV file, but a GDF file. This is one of several network storage files. It's actually pretty similar to a CSV file, with the difference that it has, you know, like the list, in this case, of channels that we would find, and then a second list, which is the connections. There are several tools that one can use to open these kind of files. The tool that we generally recommend is called Gephi. I'm going to open that here, and I already prepared here a network file for Not Just Bikes. And yeah, I'm not going to introduce you to Gephi. There are several videos on my channel that do that. I think I'm also going to make a separate video for how to create or do network analysis specifically for YouTube. But here I already prepared a step 2 crawl into the network of Not Just Bikes. So you can see it here, orange in the middle. The size here is the number subscriber count, and the color is the number of connections. So the more connections, the hotter the color. And you can see here, those are basically the level 1 connections, Strong Towns here, and then here, level 2, right? And what we can see here are these kind of clusters that appear, interconnected zones. In this case, yeah, it's a channel that has to do with urban planning, bicycling, and so forth. Public transport, so it's also like not surprising that all of those channels here deal with this topic. Yeah, and indeed, I mean, this is a way maybe for us to find new channels to analyze. So we could, you know, kind of use this here as a way to say, okay, I started from one channel. Maybe I want to add Strong Towns to my collection, maybe some other one, and this gives you a little bit of a different perspective than the channel list. Can also be an interesting way to look at how are different actors trying to connect on the platform, right? I mean, featuring another channel is also some kind of signaling action, right? So that could be interesting. Going back to the YouTube data tools, so that was the channel network. This is probably the most simple network feature, because the second big network module is even bigger. So I'm going to open that here. Again, this is going to create a network, but it's going to create a network between videos. So in the case of channels, we saw that channels can be connected by, well, featuring channels, but also by subscriptions. Videos can be connected, well, in a number of ways, but the main one here on YouTube, and this is what the YouTube data tools models, are so-called related videos. And that is a feature that we get from the YouTube API, right? So the YouTube data tools, they sit on top of YouTube's API and they use this programming interface to make queries into YouTube's database. And one of the features that the YouTube API has is related videos. And these related videos, and here I'm going to go back to the YouTube interface. I'm just going to open some kind of video here. These related videos are in part the videos that appear here on the right side. So some studies have basically used related videos as a means to study YouTube's recommender system. And that, I think, to a degree is valid because, yeah, I mean, these are video recommendations. But the problem here is that the videos that appear here and the related videos are not identical. So what we have up here, or in here, are videos that also contain personalized recommendations. And that's not the case for the related videos. So if we were to compare the list of related videos and this up next column here for me, there would be some overlap. So some videos would be the same and some would be only specifically for me here, right? So if you want to look at the related videos, yeah, which also have their own basically navigation item here, and all is not the same. What are related videos then? So YouTube no longer communicates, doesn't really say how this is calculated, but up till, if I remember correctly, 2018, they actually did. And what they said was that related videos are videos that are watched in the same viewing session. So they're basically watched together in a viewing session. So let's say if I go on YouTube and I watch 3 videos in a row, these 3 videos could appear then in the related connections for these 3 videos, right? And the idea is that the more 2 videos are co-watched by users in these kind of sessions, the more often they will appear together in the related videos list. So for example, okay, we have here a video called The Next Great Cycling City, and apparently that has been co-watched a lot with Cities Aren't Loud from the same channel. As we move down, however, we see, okay, there are also other channels here. So apparently Cycling the Streets of Amsterdam has been co-watched a lot with, yeah, our channel here, The Next Great Cycling City. So this may give us a glimpse into viewing patterns on YouTube. So it's maybe actually not so much a glimpse into the recommendation system, or only partially, but it's also, or maybe even mainly, a glimpse into viewing patterns as they appear on YouTube. And this is something that can be very interesting. So going back into the YouTube data tools, again, we already have the familiar way of getting kind of like a starting point for our crawl, because this is again a crawl, and I can go not just one step into the related videos, but 2 steps. The search part and then the seeds part. So if I were to take here the video ID, put it here, and again I could put several comma separated video IDs here, I would basically be able to get the list of related videos here and how they connect between each other. So if I take crawl depth 1, I'm moving from my seed, which could be a search result, but could also be a list of IDs. I move into the first layer of related videos. And then I could say, okay, I want a second layer And then, yeah, it searches for this next video and again looks into all of the related videos. This can get very big very quickly. So even at depth 2, I've seen networks that end up with like 5,000, 7,000 videos. So just take that into account when you start like searching or using seeds. I would really recommend in the beginning always just use one crawl depth 1, because you may have to wait a long time, or your analysis is going to be very complicated. Just a footnote, there's also the possibility to do a crawl depth of 0, and there then I need a number of seeds, and I would only see how those videos are related amongst each other, right? So it doesn't discover any new videos. Crawl depth, I can also reduce the number of related videos. The default is 50. And then again, I'm not a robot and so forth. So what I end up with, and I've already prepared that in Gephi, so again, you get a network file, is, well, a network. And this is now a network of videos. So I used indeed a video from Not Just Bikes as a starting point. And here the size is the number of views of the video, and the color is actually the channel name. So you can see that 36% of related videos that it found for this video are actually from that same channel. And then there are a number of videos from other channels, and there's actually only one video from each one of those other channels. I used here coloration to make that visible a little bit. I could also, continue coloring here. But we can see here is an interesting cluster on the right, all of the same channels. All of the videos from the same channel are very much connected, right? But you also see some connections here, other connections, yeah. And I could just, make the video titles visible. And indeed, this is something that we can analyze. And yeah, I could, for example, say, all right, I want to get a broader structural view and then make crawl depth 2. Or I could, for example, also say, all right, I'm actually maybe, going here into the data laboratory, which is the list of, I closed that. The list of all of the videos found here, and I could maybe, start deleting some of those videos that I don't think are important, and export that list, and then use the video IDs as input for another step. That's called supervised crawling, where crawling doesn't happen just automatically. Everything's taken into account. No, I make a crawl, I filter, make another crawl, I filter, and so forth. And that, could be an interesting way of creating a series or a collection, a sample of videos that then I want to analyze. All right, so that is the video list, the video network module. There's one feature that I didn't tell you about, and that's namely that the video network also creates a channel network, but it's a little bit of a different kind of network. So imagine, let's go back into Gephi. Imagine, okay, I'll put that away. So this video recommends, is related to that video. And this video here in the middle is from a channel. And that video here on the side is also from a channel. So we could also say, okay, actually the two channels are related. And the more times the video from one channel is connected to a video of another channel, because it could be more videos from the same channels, the stronger that connection. And that's the kind of channel network that the video network module creates. I know it's a little bit complicated. Maybe it takes some time to wrap your head around it, but this is basically how that looks like. It is basically a channel view on the video recommendations in a sense. And it can again be an interesting way to maybe find new channels for your analysis, but also get a bit of a more structural view, a higher level view on those video relations, right? So which channels are being co-watched in a sense, at least as projected through our related video recommendations. All right, so now we already had almost all of the modules, right? Remember, the channel info module was for just basic channel overview. Then we had 2 list modules, channel list modules, video list module. In both cases, we would get a list of either channels or videos as an answer. Then we had the channel network and the video network modules. And in the case of the channel network, we went through feature channels connections or subscriber connections to create a network between channels. The video network, we ended up with networks of related videos as seen through YouTube's related video feature. The last module is again a little bit of a bigger one, and that kind of shifts the attention now to comments. So comments, well, they exist, right? So in this case here, we're on a video and there's a bunch of comments here, and you can already imagine that, okay, we're gonna start with a video ID. That's what we need. And then we're gonna get a list of videos. Comments in a CSV file, and that's exactly the case. This is exactly what's happening here. I'm not gonna use the video ID of the Not Just Bikes videos because that's too many comments. I'm just gonna use this one here, which I know has very few. Not gonna limit it to a number of comments, and I'm gonna just put an output, HTML, so we can see. I have to click on traffic lights. Did I get all the traffic lights? Yes. Here we go. And indeed, we get a bit of information about the video. Then we get a list of users. And as you see this video, there should already be the option there to actually also anonymize these usernames. And then we get here the list of comments. So for example, severely underrated band, it's an old song, and so forth. Okay, we get the same kind of information then also as files. Here the basic info is a CSV file, that's that. The comments is a CSV file, well, that's that. The authors is a CSV file, well, that's this list here, right? So you can see it here in the interface, or you can download that as a file. But now there's a little bit of sophistication, and that's because on YouTube, comments can reply to each other. So there's some structure here, right? So it's not just one comment, next one down, next comment, and so forth. But there is a very basic reply structure. So in this case, all of these 30 replies connect to this comment here. And then there's another level of sophistication, and that's also, well, it's a little bit different, right? So it doesn't appear as this fold out here, but people can actually also reply within this reply structure. So the comment by GRAS here is a reply to @enthusiasticsrock, right? So that's a certain caveat or sophistication here. And the YouTube data tools in the comment list gives you the number of replies for a certain comment. It also gives you the like count, but it also tells you whether a comment is a reply or not. So whether it is in that kind of fold out or not. So that's, something that in your analysis you may be interested in. And you can then maybe filter on that and say, okay, I only want to analyze top comments, top level comments, for example. Yeah. What's interesting, and I'm also not going to go into detail, I'm going to probably make a full video just on this comment module. There's also the possibility to create comment networks. So the YouTube data files, the YouTube data tools generate a file, again a GDF file. You can open that in Gephi, that basically tries to parse this structure here. So in this network, every node is going to be a user. And for example, user GRAS is going to be connected to user Itch.io Festival. Enthusiasts of Rock is going to be connected to Itch.io Festival. But then user GRAS is also going to connect to Enthusiasts of Rock. So what you basically get is a network with all of these kinds of interactions as seen, well, through the people who use these things correctly, right? Sometimes people do not use the ad, although, it's the default here. So user as Blaster 9000 directly appears here. But on some, I think, apps, that's actually not the case. And people will simply reply, without the name and just, say, okay, I'm replying to the, I'm just replying to the latest comment or something. So there's a little bit of a caveat here because this is, of course, something that the tool cannot detect. But as long as people use these ads, it's possible to get this kind of conversational structure out. And I think what's interesting here is then particularly to see, okay, what kind of comment section is this, right? Is this a more interactive one? Are people having debates? Are they replying to each other? Are they entering into a conversation? Or is it maybe something that's indeed much more flat and people are just, posting their comment and that's it. So that can be an interesting thing. And you can also see it, maybe which kind of users are in central positions within those networks, and so forth. That again can be done in Gephi. So that was already the last module, the video comments module. You also have an FAQ section with a number of I think helpful pointers on where to get help, how to report bugs and so forth. I think there's also some information that I already talked about, how to get to video IDs, how to get to channel IDs and so forth. But in the end, we have these 6 modules, the channel info module and the video comments module. Yeah, they're a little bit different, but then we have 2 list modules, 2 network modules. And indeed, the analysis of these data are then up to you, right? You can maybe, for comments, you want to do textual analysis. For videos, maybe you want to do qualitative analysis. These files can be opened in all kinds of programs, CSV files, but even the network files. There's not just Gephi, so you can basically bring your analysis software of choice. Yeah, I hope this is a helpful overview, and I hope that I'll be getting back to making maybe some more videos, probably focusing on the YouTube data tools. But in the meantime, take care and enjoy analyzing YouTube. Cheers.